All right, chapter 16. Let's go through it, right? The first thing we're going to talk about is FDI, foreign direct investment. And then we're going to talk about why do firms invest directly in foreign countries instead of doing cross-border M&As, right? And then we'll move down to cross-border M&As in the next video, and then move down to political risk associated with foreign direct investment or foreign investment overall. That will be it. Now, trends in foreign direct investment. Well, the foreign direct investment often involves the establishment of production facilities abroad, factories abroad, right? Creating jobs in their foreign countries, right? And then we call it greenfield investment because out of the greenfield, right? Green fields are gone now. Instead of acquiring the existing facilities and factories and headquarter buildings from another foreign countries, companies, right? This is just starting from the scratch. From the green fields are gone now. Right? So that's the idea over here. From the ground up, right? Now, several developed nations are the sources of FDI outflows. Usually, rich countries, they go for FDIs with their excess cash, and then cash flows. They can afford to go out, right? Most worldwide FDI comes from the developed world. This implies that MNCs domiciled in these countries should have certain comparative advantages in undertaking overseas investment projects. And then, but that's not 100%, right? That's not 100%. If you look at the flows, right? Both developing and developed countries are the recipients of inflows of FDIs, which means some developing countries have some outgoing FDIs, right? China, Mexico, and then South Korea as well, right? Have begun to undertake FDI, albeit to a modest scale. Now, if you look at the exhibit 16.1 of the textbook, it shows foreign direct investment outflows or inflows in the parentheses of every second line in billions of US dollars, right? You see Australia, Canada, China, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Mexico, Netherlands, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, UK, US, and the world. Now, I hope in the next revision, I hope they include South Korea. Number one, because I'm South Korean, right? Number two, because South Korea is now world's 10th largest country or 11th largest economy. And then we have about what? Samsung Electronics, a big figure. And then LG, right? Chemical, SK groups, non-trivial issue over here. And then K-pops, right? And then all these influences are going there, right? We need some, self-esteem over here to discuss something about Korea. Oh, yeah. You may ask me, why don't you create your own textbook of international finance using a South Korean example? I will think about that, but it takes a long time to do that. But instead, right, if these textbook authors just stick up one thing about South Korean data, that will be really sexy, I think. Talking about South Korea and FDI, right? Recently, there was an interesting debate and an issue going on. Actually, international lawsuit related to politics in the United States as well. The presidential election kind of things. What was that? Well, SK Innovation, this is the third largest chaebol group in Korea. And then LGChemical, which is about third or fourth largest chaebol group in Korea as well. And then they have electric car battery companies, which is LGChemical is the original one. And then SK Innovation, what happened is that SK Innovation was a new competitor coming in. And then the thing is, LGChemical they notoriously they don't pay well to the employees, like half of the salary to what should go to their, compared to the competitor's salary, right? Half. So the employees had every reason to depart. The thing is, SK Innovation, as a newcomer in this industry, lured these R&D the inventors in the LGChemical with big bonuses, right? And then salaries like that. So 70 of them, okay, departed all of a sudden. And together with it, their ideas, and then those, patent related ideas, key ideas strategically, right? Important intangible assets moved from LG Chemical to SK Innovation. So that happened like a couple of years ago, I think. And then, given that Tesla and then all these kind of electric vehicle, or Volkswagen, you've seen that, right? It's hot in fashion, those electric vehicle battery, that's the thing you have to go, right? And then LG lost those 70 of them, right? They're in trouble. So what did they do? They sued. I sue you, LG Innovation. And then the legal battle has been going on. And then, internet WTO, was it? Or US legal institution. And then LG Chem won the lawsuit and SK Innovation lost it. The thing is, if they completely lose, right, the case, then the thing is, SK Innovation was supposed to start a factory in Georgia, near Atlanta. And the thing is, if they have to, if the SK Innovation have to stop, right, those production in the United States, they would have to, quit employing. They could not employ as many employees. They could not create jobs in Georgia, okay? And then that's something the politicians or Biden government would not want to accept, right? Is there any middle ground that you can strike a deal, right? So that was what happened over here, right? Even though SK Innovation lost the lawsuit, right? They ended up paying the legal, penalties, and still they are able to do their job of working in the United States, creating jobs in the Georgia, right? That was a compromise that they had to do, a strike, right? Even though United States care about intellectual properties like R&Ds and patents and things like that, when it comes to job creation, you know the rule, right? Job creation comes first. So that's what happened. The greenfield investment, right? Making factories in foreign countries. South Korea has every reason to be sticking over here. Okay? And then average foreign direct investment per year. Yeah, you look at this, right? And inflow and outflow, predominantly US, you see it. And then other countries, you see it. And then Exhibit 16.3 shows foreign direct investment outward or inward stacks in billions of dollars. What's the difference between this 3 and 16.1? 16.1 was about the flow concept, right? Every year, how much has been going in and out, right? Flow, it's like a income statement kind of revenues, or a cash flow statement, I should say, right? Investment cash flow coming in and out. Over here, it's more like a balance sheet, which is like a stock concept. How much is there, right? You see all these different countries over there. Now, why do firms do FDI, invest overseas? Because of the following handful of reasons, right? The first thing is about trade barriers, and then labor market imperfections, and then intangible assets concern, and then vertical integration, and product life cycle reasons, and shareholder diversification reasons. What does these each mean? Well, let's go. Trade barriers, right? Government action leads to market imperfections like tariffs and quotas and other restrictions on the free flow of goods and services and people. Cause some problem, okay? Balance of payment issue is a big thing in FX market, right? And then every country tries to, if they are trying to be more competitive, right? It's like beggar thy neighbor policy would be always there in staying competitive, and then prevent or block any imports using high tariff rates, and then strict quotas and import and export and things like that. But how to circumvent this kind of tariff, high tariff? Well, Japanese automobile companies were using this, and Hyundai Motors in South Korea were doing this as well. Too many Japanese cars in the United States made in Japan or made in Korea, they would say. No more. We don't want to import any more of your cars, right? That kind of concern was going on, so that the Japanese automaker said, well, instead of our companies building these cars and then exporting to you, why don't we just create employ your workers in the United States, so that we create employment, just like SK Innovation is doing over there, right? And then it would be good for America as well as for Japanese automakers. So mutually beneficial. That is the one reason. That is the one way of circumventing these tariff issues. Trade barriers can also arise naturally due to high transportation cost, particularly for low value to weight goods. Now, and then labor market imperfections could be another reason. Among all factor markets, the labor market is the least perfect one, which means a lot of the regulations. For example, difficult to labor market issues is big one. Labor unions, and then they try to protect their they try to protect their way of living, right? And making the wages and then things like that. So there's a protection against foreign labors like that. We call that the factors of productions are land, labor, capital, and then entrepreneurial ability. And if you look at the capital and entrepreneurial ability and creativity, things like that, these are much more flexible to move, right? But when it comes to labor, right, it's not as much flexible. If there exist restrictions on the flow of workers across borders, then labor services can be underpriced relative to productivity. So some countries have lower wages than other countries, and then the restrictions may be immigration barriers or simply social preferences. So some discriminations can be there, right? Immigration barriers. And the one thing I know recently I found out today or yesterday is that the internship opportunities, right, for your cases of studying abroad, the students try to get some work experience as an internship when they visit South Korea. Their best thing they want to pursue, right, they dream about is working for Samsung or Hyundai or this Kakao neighbor kind of companies, right, as an internship. But the thing is, the Korean Immigration Office does not allow that, because their primary concern, the Department of Labor in Korea, their first priority is to create employment for domestic students first, unfortunately. To the extent that the unemployment rate is extremely high in South Korea, it will be extremely difficult to imagine or for the companies to hire any foreign exchange students to work as an internship. Okay, that's a very difficult challenge. I wish each different countries could mutually create some internship opportunities for the exchange students from mutual countries, right? But so far, there has been less of an understanding, right? So that is a problem. That is the current challenge right now. Anyway, that's your level right now. But more of a more permanent job positions, right? This is a labor market imperfection is a serious issue. The labor cost around the globe, what you see is the average hourly cost of labor. And what you see is that in the Switzerland, hourly cost of labor is as much as 60,000 US dollars per hour. And if you go down the road, South Korea, 22,000 or 20. Oh, wait. Yeah. 60. Did I say 1,000? No, $60 per hour. And then South Korea, $23 per hour. And then if you go down the road, like in India and Bangladesh, what India is like $1.4. Bangladesh is like 40 cents, about 40 cents per hour. A huge difference, right? Price level and then all this kind of macroeconomic situations matters over here. And then intangible asset is another concern. Like patents or secret sauce. Coca-Cola, that black sugar water thing, yeah, has a very valuable asset in its closely guarded secret formula for this Coca-Cola drink, right? To protect that proprietary information, Coca-Cola has chosen FDI over licensing, right? If you license your secret sauce to foreign companies over there, they're foreign partners, right? How much do you trust them? And then is there any guarantee that your partner will keep it secret? Or what if the guy leaks that secret sauce to your competitors in the domestic market later on in the future? You don't want to create that kind of troubles, right? Since intangible assets are difficult to package and sell to foreigners, multinational corporations often enjoy a competitive advantage with foreign direct investments. Coca-Cola bottling, right? Set up everywhere. If they cannot set up direct the bottling companies, Coca-Cola chose not to go in certain countries like India or something. Vertical integration is another concern. Vertical integration, 수직 계열화, right? In Korean terminology, MNCs, multinational corporations, may undertake FDI in countries where inputs are available in order to secure supply of inputs at a stable accounting price. So supply chain management wise, right? Vertical integration. If you just internalize your supplies, right? That may or could help your cost savings, right? I don't say they will always, but because there is always a risk of going to the opposite direction. Anyway, vertical integration may be backward or forward. Backward is about for example, a furniture maker is buying a logging company, so it's like a backward, right, in the value chain. In your strategy class, you must have learned this value chain, all right? Supply, this is you, and then your company, and then the suppliers are the ones behind you, right? Suppliers. And then backward is this way integration, and forward is that way integration. You contacting the customers or in the downstream, right? Your automaker, US automaker buying a Japanese auto dealership, right? So there is a consumer, and then there is a dealership or some distribution network. You may sometimes need this kind of distribution network in-house, right? Sometimes it is better to keep them independent, but sometimes it is necessary. The dealerships, because US makers, car makers had such a hard time selling their cars in Japanese domestic market. So they, the trouble was that these distributors were reluctant to, deal with this US cars, right? So that, the idea was like, why don't we set up our own dealership, okay? And then let them handle our US cars, things like that. So that's that. Product life cycle is another concern, right? Product life cycle. For this part, I'm going to talk about it in the next video. So wait for that. And thanks for watching.